Harry's wife. They just don't get it. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Naturally, Harry and Harry's wife continue to dominate the headlines, just what Harry's wife absolutely loves, and since that's what she loves, Harry loves it as well, because he's chained to her, codependent that he is. She, of course, wants to be in the headlines, because being in the headlines enables the assertion of control and the drawing of fuel. It can also assist with facade management and the residual benefit of the receipt of money. Of course, many of the headlines, as you'll see in future videos shortly coming out today, demonstrate that more and more people see through them. But there are still those that really don't understand and don't get it, and that they fail to recognise what Harry's wife is. The article comes from The Guardian, written by Catherine Bennett, who writes, "Among the Harry's wife hating media fraternity, Jeremy Clarkson isn't even king." As you know, recently Clarkson talked about how he wanted Harry's wife to undertake a Game of Thrones reenactment, the walk of shame in effect of being made to walk naked while she has shit flung at her. This didn't go down very well for Clarkson, as he faced a record number of complaints. However, Bennett writes, "Commiserations to Jeremy Clarkson. Now his son Colm has been taken down, the celebrity must forfeit his chance to win the UK media's most demented attack on Harry's Wife Award 2022. Fairness requires his article to be available for comparison with work from names including, in no particular order, Dan Wootton, Piers Morgan, Nigel Farage, Tom Bauer, Brendan O'Neill of Spiked, and The Spectator's Freddie Gray, not forgetting Robert Tice, Toby Young, and Rod Liddell." Now, what do all of those individuals have in common? They have criticised Harry's wife, often more than once, and vociferously. But that means, in the eyes of this particular writer, that they belong in the category of demented attacks on Harry's wife. Yet again, you have a writer who fails to understand that these are comments about her behaviour, and could it not just be that since so many people are saying the same thing about her, does that not provide force to the argument? It's worth a consideration, isn't it? She continues by writing, "Energised perhaps by the abundant material issuing from Monty Shitshow." Bit of a big clue there for you, Catherine Bennett. "More and more commentators are realising that a media career really can be based on or refreshed by repeating that the Duchess of Sussex is any or all of a talentless yet cunning mansion-dwelling liar, narcissist, bully, gold-digger, hypocrite, and republic facilitator who stole our prince. Morgan dragged him out of the country off to your California mansion to fleece your royal titles, whom she will dump, thanks to the demagogue psychic Farage for his insight, when the time is right." Well, again, you see, Catherine Bennett, you get it wrong. One is able to predict that there's a high prospect of her dumping him, purely because that is one of the most common outcomes of the narcissist victim dynamic, and something that I've explained in my Sussex series, and also the future. It isn't a case of being a psychic, but it's a simple fact that when there is the dynamic between narcissist and intimate partner primary source, there are only ever going to be three outcomes. One, the two stay together, but it's a miserable existence for the victim, punctuated by some returns of the golden period. And the roller coaster continues, the up and down throughout the rest of the relationship. It goes on until either of the parties dies. That isn't the vagaries of a normal relationship facing the trials and tribulations of life. Far from it. It is an individual held by an abuser who doesn't escape, and the abuser doesn't get rid of them. The second outcome is that the victim escapes. The third outcome, which is the most common, is that the narcissist disengages because one of the 5 disengagement triggers has been activated. So for Farage to suggest that she will get rid of him isn't the behaviour of a demagogue psychic. Farage may not, of course, recognise it because of the narcissism involved. Perhaps he does. But the point is this. It's not inaccurate to state that. But once again, the observations of Catherine Bennett cloud what's really going on here. She further states, to which the popular psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson tweeted, "This seems highly probable to me." Again, him making the observation that it's likely that she'll get rid of him and dump him. Having said that, she continues to write, the trade is harder than it might look. The successful Markle detractor must not only sustain Meghan rivaling levels of abuse, no, you could easily comment upon Harry's wife without being abusive, but produce some signature excuse for his feelings. An honourable mention then to Peterson, who, new to the specialism, brought a scholarly perspective to bear on a Markle Archetype podcast in which he'd been quoted saying, "I don't think that men can control crazy women." While compliant with Goldward constraints on psychological speculation, Peterson added to his academic defence of crazy women the objection that Markle's voice just grates on me. Elsewhere, the recently arrested career misogynist Andrew Tate seemed to be the first of this men's group to call her a bitch and worse. Well, he would do so, of course, in his lack of facade, direct and blunt manner as he asserts control over her. Bennett writes, "Why the anger? Unclear. Really?" But invited on Morgan's show, Tate recently regretted that a lot of age-old traditions are being destroyed in real time. The above list should not incidentally be interpreted as some innate female inferiority in reviling Harry's wife. Credit is due, in fact, to the Daily Telegraph's female team. The judges of this award are not, however, so woke as to favour less obsessive and comparatively pallid contributions to Harry's wife's hating by women, simply for the sake of diversity. If it is any consolation to Clarkson, last year's anti-Harry's wife content, including work so outstandingly malignant that even after his article provoked international condemnation and record-breaking complaints, he may not have triumphed. True, the description of Harry's wife as worse than the serial killer Rose West is memorable. Likewise, his dream of the day that Harry's wife, since the writer hates her on a cellular level, is made to parade naked through the streets of every town in Britain while the crowds chant shame and throw lumps of excrement at her. But original? Our judges noted that this sort of sexualized, unashamedly pathological fantasy about a determined and attractive woman would probably be considered fairly basic in online groups favoured by resentful incels. Moreover, one of the challenges for specialist Harry's wife betas is to balance, as Clarkson did not, the disturbed with the publishable. As familiar as it is for some men to be triggered by female success into the sort of behaviours academics have summarised as masculine overcompensation, the Harry's wife adverse, like Greta Thunberg's haters, as Clarkson shows there is significant overlap, must keep in mind the need not to come across as worryingly invested or, to borrow Peterson's jargon, crazy. Now, of course, this again lumps people's dislike of Harry's wife because she's successful. It's not. People dislike her because she's a hypocrite, because she's a liar, because she's manipulative, because she revises history, that she bullies people, that she tells lies about people, that she caused unnecessary anguish to the late Queen, that she has manipulated Prince Harry to turn against his family. But of course, this author is incapable of seeing all of this. She continues, Tom Bauer, a strong contender for this year's award, could probably have pulled off his Nazi analogy. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propagandist, would look with real awe at what the Sussexes and Netflix have achieved. And even his conspiratorial Doria plays a really sinister role in this whole story. It helped that he was speaking on a channel where Harry's wife hysteria is pretty much normalised, but people noticed when he told viewers of Good Morning Britain, it's Harry's wife I'm after. That would be the shit pelter Clarkson, is to keep his TV shows and newspaper columns should not, as much as it thrilled his fans, be taken to mean less eminent contributors would survive. Careful misogynists might be better advised to study the way his rivals will, for instance, elevate otherwise standard exercises in vituperation with dash of compassion. A mention of the cost of living crisis, learned regret for Harry's wife's limitations. In a strangely lobotomized way, Gray says of his muse, Harry's wife seems to have been influenced by the theories of Carl Jung. Alternatively, notice how seasoned Harry's wife antagonists offer deep constitutional feeling as a justification for their insults and disgusted faces. Princess Pinocchio, your narcissistic delusionist wife, the Ginge, poisonous rats. The Guild's settled understanding after the Netflix series that the Sussexes represent, in Morgan's words, an existential threat to the British monarchy, allowed for some peerless abuse from lead members of the fraternity, notably in the popular Harry's wife hating double acts. The aim of this collaborative format being for participants to goad one another into ever more extravagant denunciations of the Sussexes. In particular, the Wooten-Bower combo reliably appalls, the host nodding while the writer insists, for example, confident that Wooten won't mention Andrew Morton, that Diana was never like her son, duplicitous. Wooten, confident that Bower won't mention Panorama, agrees that Diana never did anything so vile as to criticise the institution. To pick a winner from this wealth of invective has occasionally felt like an impossible task, but the most precious is surely a piece by the distinguished Marxist turned Marklist, Brendan O'Neill, not for pyrotechnics, but for so brilliantly encapsulating Harry's wife's often fascinating effect on the male mind. "Go away," he begs the beldame of Monty Shit Show. "Leave me alone." He made the same request in 2020. Now, of course, it's interesting that she writes in such terms because it demonstrates a complete failure to understand what Harry's wife is. And whilst, of course, the level of some of the observations may well fall within hyperbole, the point is, it's based again upon her behaviours. And so many people see this, that's why so many people commenting as such. And the attempts to fight a rearguard action to defend Harry's wife is unfortunate and also inaccurate. Of course, Harry's wife relies upon such individuals to do this for her, to remind her that she is the victim, something that, of course, that she will continue to bleat. And for every attack, justified as it is, this will still reinforce the victim mentality in Harry's wife's mind. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.